So we did this already, but to make sure that people understand that this is the second take, we're both wearing different clothes than we were the first time. I'm wearing my Planet Express jersey, which is, of course, from Futurama. And because it's Futurama, it's got Dr. Zoidberg on the back. Because who else from that show would I have on the back of a jersey? Now, what I've also done is to keep track of who's where. This is something I actually did when I was writing the book as well. So you've got Mike, Tanya, and Catherine in one location. They're on their way over to where John, Carissa, Craig, Nathan, Ben, and Kristen are. You'll meet Craig. These are your core characters. So anybody else you hear, they're not core characters, even though Dave does end up getting mentioned regularly. The villain, still unknown. And the cause of violence, extreme behavior, also still unknown. So at this stage of the book, everybody's in the dark about who's behind it all. It's not Bettman. I'm going to say that right out for people from the Hockey Channel. It's not Gary Bettman. He's not the villain in this book. But this is your heroes taking shape, and they're not all going to end up being part of this group by the end, because it does end up being kind of filled with characters, but there are certain ones that are deeper characters than others, and you can tell which ones I really like by how much dialogue I give people. I know Craig, and that was a friend of mine from work at the time, and he made it just a natural for a character, because he was very outspoken and he was very blunt with people, and I was like, that makes a very good character. So, starting again, and I might try to read all of chapter 4 this time around. Because I don't want you to sit through it and not get anything new out of it.
I know, right? I just listened to it.
I know. As the shuttle...
Though, so.
Yeah, as the shuttle commanded by Mike... Settle it down. Commanded by Mike Fergus disembarks and heads for Arcology 1237. So that's here, these people. The people actually on Arcology 1237 are all oblivious to the danger. So that's Winnipeg. The name of the Arcology, Winnipeg. Charles Woods, the man in charge of the operation, is the most oblivious of them all. This isn't going the way he planned for things to go. This was his chance to be leader of something grand, something that he believed would last forever. It'd been a major coup when he'd secured Hector Cruz to live on his Arcology, unknown to most outside the political circles that ruled this new society. There had been a bidding war. There was trading of star names, and there was a belief that Hector would add tremendous prestige to any Arcology that he settled on. This man had turned third world nations into one united country that was an economic powerhouse. So for prestige. The news hit him hard. It hit him and would undoubtedly destroy a prestige he had been hoping to build. So now someone had to answer for this mess. Hector Cruz, a man known the world over as a brilliant man, a good man, man of peace. Yeah, he's dead. He was been blown in half. This wasn't pretty, and many people had seen it. The mess had been witnessed, and a simple memory wipe would not be sufficient to save him from relentless scrutiny. There were also laws against doing a memory wipe, and that often led to psychotic issues after. So as soon as this happens, you've got to think, this is about 1,000 years in the future, so the press find out things really, really quickly. As he stood at the head of his table in the boardroom, he looked around at the members of the board and shook his head. Going around the table, we have Sector A leader, Sterling Bishop, Sector B leader, Lauren Burns, Sector C leader, Ben Woods, and the three heads of their respective police departments, Kristen Burren, Craig Hicks, and Donna Meadows. The three police captains did not look comfortable, believing that they could be and would be the scapegoats for this public relations nightmare. So, I got up this morning feeling good about my life and life choices. Charles starts as he spots Craig already rolling his eyes. He slowly walks towards Craig as he continues. I'm a man who's proud of what he has. Sure, that pride has the potential to cause me trouble, but in this case I felt it was well placed. This Arcology had managed to lure one of the greatest men of our time to live amongst us. We had managed to snag this man to be one of us. And everyone on every other Arcology was envious of me when I got him to come here. He folds his arms across his chest, looks down at Craig. And yet you roll your eyes. Craig nods. Look, we all know why we're here. Hector may have been the greatest man in the history of the world for all I care, but the officers did what they had to do. This man killed his wife and was going to kill Kristen. Personally, I think defending one's life is important, no matter how crazed the killer might be. I understand that you're worried about who the killer was, but You know, the fact that you lose your place as the man who protects crazy famous people and all that, that's not really my problem. You're mocking me, Charles says. Craig laughs. God's sake, man, Kristen's one of the nicest women I've ever met, and he attacked her. The officers that backed her up and saved her life and saved their own by ending this. Hector may have been a great man and may have done some great things, but at the end he was messed up in a way I've never seen. I saw the footage right before you hastily called this meeting. That man had some crazy eyes on him, Chuck. My name's Charles. Don't call me Chuck. Craig looks down at the floor and sighs. Yeah, I know. See, I just don't understand any of this. Each section has a whopping 3 cops. 3! There are almost 500,000 people on the station. You have 9 people who legally have guns. Police officers. 9 of us. The fact this didn't become a bloodbath beyond what it was is a small miracle. Yeah, it sucks that couple's lives were ended, but it could have been a lot worse. Instead of conducting a witch hunt, you should be commending those officers for doing what had to be done. Show the footage to the world and see if anyone can argue against what they did. Charles turns away and picks up a remote control from the table. He knows this is already all over worldwide TV. He starts scrolling through video reports of the incident, many with true-to-life reenactments of what had happened. It's being shown in many languages to people of the earth below, and Charles is growing madder with each report that he scrolls through. Ends with him throwing the remote at the screen. The remote shatters, and there's a small crack in the screen as an Italian report of the incident is showing. This arcology's place has been ruined, among all the other arcologies. Don't you see what this vigilante justice has done to our standing? I worked so hard for all of this, and it's already being torn apart. That's complete crap, with all due respect, sir, Craig says. Pardon me? Charles can't recall somebody questioning him like this. He's always been the ruler of the roost, and he's hired these specific people to lead his police force, as he believed they were the right kind of people for the job. Docile, not asking questions type. To him, Craig's attitude is borderline mutiny. Look, if they'd asked nicely for him to put the knife down, they'd all be dead. The man was charging with a murder weapon in hand, and they did the right thing. They took the kill shot, and any man or woman in that position would have done the same thing. In fact, if he was charging at you, after you were done wetting yourself, you would have done the same thing. Craig pauses. Okay, the bladder remark might be a little lowbrow, so I take that back. I don't mean to insinuate a man who sits behind his desk and ridicules people for doing the job they're paid to do is spineless. You have every right to treat us like cattle, sir. Charles looks over at his son, Ben. Well, Captain Mayor Woods, as I hear you calling yourself, what are your opinions on the matter? Ben's eyes grow wide. He tries to talk his way around this one. Well, this is a complicated matter. On the one hand, you have the needs of the many. It would seem that they outweigh the needs of the few, or even the one. Yeah, Star Trek, that's classic, Craig says with a laugh. What? Ben asks, legitimately not knowing what he was talking about. I never saw it, and is it any good? Charles resists the urge to strike his son as he approaches him, but grabs his shoulder instead and pinches down on a nerve hard enough so Ben feels it, but not enough to cause him to drop to the floor. See, this started in your section. It started when your officers got involved in something they had no business being involved in. Section A residents must not be treated like mere chattel by Section C cops. Meaning what exactly? Donna, the Section C cop, asks. Once Charles turns to glare at her, she adds, Can you explain that in a way that doesn't insult the people I work with and take care of? I had suggested a small police force under my command. Apparently, that was against arcology regulations, and so I had to hire someone else for that job. I allowed my son here to hire Section C officers, since I didn't see that section as being particularly important. All of the important people are in Section A, so I hired Kristen here, and she failed to do the right thing. Donna Meadows, you and your band of merry idiots were hired because you are friends with my dim-witted son here, he says with a wry grin. Merry idiots? Yeah, we're done here, Donna says, and she gets up to leave. Oh, please stay and let's discuss how we're going to handle this. Charles answers as he motions her to sit back down. What's done is done, as they say. The problem is the nightmare's just begun for me. I do not understand how a place such as this can be home to such extreme violence. I mean, I've heard rumblings about other incidents, but nothing like this. Kristen chimes in at that point. There's been violence, and it's all been in Sector A. Small incidents, usually between married couples, sprouted up, and we figured it was just coincidence. But it seems to be getting worse and spreading. You didn't look into Hector's eyes. I did. That man saw me as prey. He didn't see me as a human being. He was not the man the world knew and loved. I don't know what happened. We have to find out what happened to him before it happens to somebody else. Your officers killed him, Charles says matter of fact. Yeah, before that, sir, Kristen says. See, this council can meet and chat, and maybe you can decide how to handle the press, but those of us in law enforcement can't sit by and become media monkeys here. Look at my face, sir. Look at the bruises, cuts on my face, and tell me I should have died to save your privileged position in society. She says as she slowly gets to her feet and stares Charles in the eyes. Charles backs away from her. I don't want tensions to run high here. I understand you were put through a lot, but I believe something else could have been done. Kristen starts moving towards Charles. Like what, sir? Maybe your son could have come up, worn a sailor's hat, sang show tunes for him, try to calm him down. Maybe my backup could have tried giving him a big old bowl of ice cream. No one can be mad when they've got a big old bowl of ice cream. Maybe something could have been done to distract the monster who killed his wife and stowed her away in the damn ceiling for safekeeping. He stowed her away in 3 pieces, sir. He cut her up. The media circus hasn't heard that part yet. Why aren't you sharing that information with them, sir? Every time she says, sir, she says it louder. Charles moves his chair in between himself and Kristen. You're emotional. I understand. You felt threatened and did what you felt you must. I get that, but I believe Hector should have been apprehended. Before he or after he raped and murdered me. You don't know his intentions. With all due respect, screw you, sir, she says and shoves the chair at Charles. He staggers back, losing his footing, falling over to the floor. Kristen pulls her gun and then walks over and places the barrel right against his forehead. That quickly, it's all over. Okay, let's take this down a notch or 6, Craig says as he makes his way over to Kristen. If you pull the trigger, I can't help you with that one. Yeah, this guy's a prick, but you can't kill people for being pricks. This whole section would be nearly empty. Pardon me, Section A council member Sterling Bishop says. Craig smirks at Sterling. Don't get offended there, rich boy. Remember, I'm from Section B, so my opinion doesn't mean anything to you anyways. He then returns his attention to Kristen. We serve together, Kristen. I've seen you in bad places. This is one of them, but if you fire that gun, you take yourself to a place I can't bring you back from. Kristen takes a deep breath and looks down at the sweaty and terrified leader of the arcology. She then turns the gun around and hits him in the forehead with the butt end of it before she stands up. She then hands her gun to Craig. Fine, she relents. Charles springs to his feet and points a shaky finger at Kristen. I want her thrown off the force and into a holding cell. Craig then steps in between the two of them. Oh, then I can talk to the press about you jailing a woman who has nearly been raped and murdered. I can tell them how you talked about her, about your police force, people in Section C. Just say the word, sir, and she's thrown into the cell. Charles turns and punches a wall. The wall doesn't give. Walls normally don't. And his knuckles start to bleed, so he may very well have cracked or broken a knuckle or two in the moment of passion, but he doesn't let the pain show as he returns to his seat and manages to sit down. We could discuss things further then. Craig leads Kristen back to her seat and pats her on the shoulder before he takes a seat next to her at the table. He then nods towards Charles Woods. There's a collective sigh of relief from the rest of the table. Hector wasn't himself, Kristen says with a sigh as she speaks. Her heart's still in her chest. I think I meant throat there. Because her heart would clearly be in her chest.
So it was where it belongs, Scotty.
Yeah, her heart didn't actually move during this whole thing, which is great because that's one of the symptoms. The man is seen on the elevator on his way to level 53, ready to choke his wife before they got off the elevator. You know, those hidden cameras we have all over the place. This is mere minutes after he tried stabbing her. Minutes before he carved her up like a Christmas goose. Man was crazed, insane, and clearly unable to control the rage inside of him. It affected him like that. If it affected him like that, I shuddered to think of what it might do to a lesser man. You talk like it's contagious, Ben says with a laugh. Like I could catch his crazy if we shared a fork or something. The man went to the dark side, couldn't come back. Pretty open and shut to me. That's why you never would have been elected to your position, Sector B leader Lauren Burns says, shaking her head. We've seen violence like this in the news and recently too. Arcology 443, the one that went from perfectly peaceful to a full-blown riot in what seemed to be only a few short days. I don't want that to happen here, and people didn't choose me to lead them as some to the same fate. How were you chosen? Ben asks Lauren. I was elected, she says, rolling her eyes. My dad just gave me the job, Ben says, as if she didn't already know that. Well, Section C isn't important anyways, right, Charles? Donna says, while darting a look at the elder Woods family member at the table. But yeah, I agree with Lauren here. Arcology 443 was all over the news, and then the news stopped reporting on them. One day we hear about riots and violence, and the next is not even mentioned. Craig nods. The media were probably told it was hurting business within the arcology tourism industry. I mean, These places are sold as havens from violence and from the world. Now if these places turn into a crap storm and far worse than life on the ground, no one will want to move into the newer ones. Charles shakes his head. I was told the New Orleans arcology was contained. Kristen and Craig share a confused glance before Kristen looks over at Charles. You can't possibly be that daft, do you? Can you? What do you mean? Kristen takes a deep breath. I've been around political circles for a long time. There are certain key words you look for when military types are describing situations that arise. Stating that a problem has been contained could mean a lot of things, but it's not an indication the problem was solved. Maybe they quarantined it, maybe they nuked it, and maybe they simply gassed everyone into a coma before shooting them into the sun. Doesn't mean everything is better. Charles scowls. That's a cynical view to take. Well, if it were fixed, Charles, it would be all over the news, Craig explains. They would bring babies, puppies, and hot girls out to show the world that all was well. Right. There would be medals of valor handed out and lots of congratulations to the arcology leader for handling the situation with courage, intelligence, and noble spirit. They'd be writing songs about the bravery shown and talking about how wonderful everyone is who helped prevent a catastrophe in space. Instead, we have nothing in the way of news at all. Charles pauses and actually considers what he's being told here. No one in the room seems anxious to deny it. Ben might, if he weren't playing with a paper airplane. Charles looks over at the cracked screen where images of Hector Cruz are still being shown. Italian voiceover speaking in low and intimidating overtones. Maybe I should try calling the leader of Arcology 443. Craig shakes his head. You're not going to find any answers. The military won't allow it. Somewhere along the way, the government and military became the same beast. They both control what's reported to the media and by the media. So you will not be able to reach the leader as he is either hiding or he's dead. Charles slumps in his seat. For the first time in his life, he's at a loss for words. The easy job he took as the leader of this large community has suddenly become very complicated. Next scene. John Webster. We remember him. He was selling coffee. Sighs as his shift comes to an end. He heads back to his quarters, takes a seat next to the window that overlooks the earth from high above. It's been a long day, and he knows things will likely only get worse. He wants things to be simple, and he really wants a good night's sleep. But he knows that isn't likely to happen. There are days he misses his family. He's a single man, but he's the oldest of 4 brothers, and he misses his brothers on days like this. Though they have their sibling rivalries amongst them, they are united when it is necessary. John's very proud of the men that his brothers have become, despite the fact they were raised just by a single parent, their loving mother, Mary Ann. John hasn't even heard from his brothers in weeks now, mostly because no one knows that he's here. When he jumped and made the save from his coffee stand earlier, he knew he had actually made a mistake. The last thing he'd been told was not to call attention to himself. He was told to keep a low profile and watch. This was the instruction he'd been given, but he'd jumped. He had run to make the save rather than call Carissa to do the same, and he'd been recorded on video doing so. It's not a matter of heroics to him, it's a matter of doing his job, his real job. John Webster is a member of the Special Operations Team. He was sent here by the global organization that wants to know what's been going wrong with arcologies. His role here is to try and prevent a massacre should one start to develop. And he's not feeling optimistic right now. He's on the lookout. He isn't really sure what he's looking for. In his 3 weeks plus, he's witnessed a shift in the mood on board, but he hasn't seen anything concrete other than the Hector Cruz incident earlier this night. John is sure that he isn't the only man sent to fulfill this role. He isn't allowed to know who has been sent to other arcologies, but he suspects that every new arcology has at least one secret operations agent on board. He was picked for this role thanks to his military intelligence work as a codebreaker, as well as the fact he was a top-notch sniper when he was called on for that duty. He's kind of badass. That's how you can tell John's one of the characters I had from when I wrote this when I was a little kid. So, Mike and John. I know those are the most generic names ever, but I was 10, so I can be forgiven for them being generic. John is sure that he isn't the only man sent... Already read that. John drags himself to the shower, gets himself cleaned up. He then puts on a pair of pajamas and gets ready to go to bed early. Yeah, he's a full-grown man that wears pajamas. But that's...
I wear pajamas.
I know, it's just, it's all manly, so... But because of the way this scene was going, it'd be really awkward if he wasn't wearing pajamas. So he's wearing pajamas.
True.
Be an awkward, kind of suggestive if he wasn't wearing pajamas.
Yes.
So... And yeah, he puts on, gets ready to go to bed early. Maybe tomorrow will be an easier day for him. Just as he's settling down in his bed, there's a knock at the door. Yeah, really? He asks the ceiling before he gets up and slowly goes to answer the door. It's Carissa there, and she doesn't appear happy. How the hell did they end up trying to suspend me? This is absolute crap, she says, throwing her arms in the air as she pushes her way into John's room. Come in, he says. Donna says I'm okay, my job is safe, but she's up there with the council, and I know they're going to blame me for this crap. I didn't even want the stupid job. You know what I wanted to be? A ballerina, he asks with a shrug. What? No. God, you're making fun of me, aren't you? John yawns. Look, it's late. Yeah, no, she says. It's 8:30, pointing at the clock on his nightstand. And then she scowls as she looks around his quarters. Ugh, you've only got a one-bedroom place? All this and you sell coffee, huh? That must be, you must be quite a hit with the ladies. Yeah, okay, so you're keeping me awake, insulting me in my quarters. You know, as much as I like this, I'm going to bed. He tries to shoo her out the door. She doesn't budge. We're going for dinner and drinks, she informs him. I never agreed to drinks. She laughs. Oh, they're my drinks. I need drinks. They're going to throw me in jail for this stupid case with a crazed maniac. I'm so screwed, so I might as well enjoy the ride. Come on, but you can't wear pajamas when you buy me dinner. It's bad enough you're broke. You don't have to dress the part. She starts to rifle through his dresser and finds a uniform that causes her to pause and turn towards him. What do you need this for? He shrugs. Halloween. You know, you could just give me a minute here to get ready. I can see I don't have any say in the matter. So at least let me get something to wear on my own. I've been dressing myself since I was about, 5. Helped raise 3 brothers. He explains as he gently pushes her aside and starts looking for something to wear. 3 brothers, huh? She says with a smile. What are they like? John again tries to shoo her out the door. Go hose yourself off while I get ready, okay? We can talk about you jumping my bones after you have a few drinks. Are you flirting with me, she asks. He sighs. Yeah, sure. I came to your place when you were trying to sleep, went off like a crazy person, and then forced you to take me to supper. That's how we'll tell people this went down, okay? Now, you have to let me get ready, or I'll just pass out here and you'll be stuck trying to lift me into bed. Carissa frowns. If you don't want to come out, that's fine. Even Nathan didn't want to come out with me. He always comes to the club, even if he just stares at me the whole time. I can't even count on that right now. She does move towards the door, though. She clearly wants to stand there and get pity from John. Yeah, guys never come out to see my man boobs either, he says. We'll discuss that over dinner, too. It sounds like it's going to be great fun. So he gets her backed into the hallway so he can get changed. As he gets dressed, a beep is heard from his uniform, and he starts banging his head on the dresser. I'm in hell, he mumbles to himself. He draws his handheld from his jacket pocket and opens it. He finds it's his commanding officer, Dave Bellows, making the call. Now remember, this is the same Dave Bellows that called Mike. Oh, God, it's Dave. John, I need you to be alert. I am. I saved Maria, didn't you hear? Dave lowers his head. I was worried you were the coffee vendor in that footage on the news. I told you to keep a low profile. I was trying to save somebody's life, John answers. There was an officer right there who was capable of making an arrest, Dave responds. I've been trained to deal with people who are doing exactly what Hector was trying to do. I am not going to apologize for doing my job. And blowing your cover? I'd rather take that risk than just watch someone die. What do you want me to be alert about, other than the fact Section A is apparently pretty darn near teetering on chaos right now, John asks. You have someone inbound to your location. They don't know you're there. I don't want you to let them know, so when you see that person, turn the other way, Dave says in as vague a terms as possible. What the hell are you talking about? I have a big dinner to go to. I'll talk to you later, Dave. Maybe you'll be straight with me then. Talk to you soon, boss, John says and ends the call before Dave can make any protests. John then throws the handheld into a dresser drawer and closes the device when it starts ringing again. When the device starts ringing again. It did. I thought that's what it was. He finishes getting dressed and then heads out into the hallway. Now, where were we? He asks, locking arms with Carissa as they head to the nearest eating establishment. Charles Wood sits alone in his boardroom. Everyone's left, and he's realizing just how bad this truly is. There's little hope that this will get any better soon, as he has no one else to blame. There isn't anyone else, but the press wants a story. He has to give the press a story, and soon it might never go away. He's viewed the security footage of Hector Cruz's incident, as well as the other violent outbreaks on board. The paper airplane his son Ben had been playing with sits before him on the table. He wanted things to be that simple. He wanted to make paper airplanes with his son and pretend the world wasn't as screwed up as it was right now. As he wallows in his thoughts, the door to his room opens and council member Lauren Burns walks into the room. I had a feeling you'd be sitting here like this, she says as she sits down next to Charles, picks up the paper airplane. See, now, we have a problem here, she says, tucking her long blonde hair behind her ear. You're having a crisis. But you're not seeing the big picture here. We need you to see the big picture, Charles. Charles smirks. See, how long have I known you? Lauren sighs. Since I was 5? You did a lot to help me when I became elected to Section B's leader, and I appreciate that, she says, putting her hand on Charles's shoulder. The thing is, my father never blamed you for what happened, and neither did I. Now here we are, on the verge of potential disaster, and you're going to blame yourself. It's what you do. I tried blaming the cops, and look how everyone turned against me, he says, throwing his hands in the air. She nods. See, you can't blame them for doing their job. Hector did terrible things, and the smartest thing you could do as a leader is go out there and tell the press the truth. Tell them what happened, and they can run away or print it. This arcology already has a reputation for being run by idiots, and I'm getting pretty sick of it. Let's prove them wrong, and let's start with this. Be a real leader. Charles takes the paper airplane and crumples it up before tossing it at a trash bin. It hits the lip of the trash can and bounces off, landing on the floor. He scowls. Story of my life right there. I'm a joke, and now the place is going to hell for it. Lauren stands and heads for the door. Just think about it. Think about what this place means to you. What family means to you, and what we have on the line here. You and I both know things are not right here. Hector's a symptom in the big picture, and you need to find out the root cause for the outbreaks of violence we have right now. Remember that 443 turned from front page news into no news at all. They talked about it when we were in here earlier. You have to see there's a massive cover-up going on. I don't want this to be the next cover-up. None of us came here for that. She exits the room and Charles is left to think it over again. He looks towards the ceiling as if some divine guidance will materialize before him. He looks down at the table again and sighs. Is this the man I raised? A voice says behind him. Charles quickly turns and finds his father Gordon standing behind him. This comes as a total shock due to the fact his father passed away 20 years ago. That fact aside, he looks as real as he did when he was alive. You can't be here, Charles says meekly at the sight of what he assumes to be either a ghost or a sign of his own brewing insanity. Gordon Woods laughs. I can't be here? There's some cryptic talk being thrown at a father you have not seen in decades. Look, son, you've got yourself in a whole world of trouble. I want to help you. You need my help. Charles starts to cry. Can't be real. He has to be insane. As real as this man looks, in his late 50s and with the white slick back hair and blue eyes, it can't be happening. Charles is trying to look past the fact he can smell the old man's cologne, can hear him breathing, and is convinced he could touch him and feel how real he seems to be. Something's wrong with my utopia, Dad, Charles says as he tries to maintain his cool. Utopia? This is a garbage can in space. This is no utopia, son. My grandson has been banished to the nether regions of this arcology, and you sit here at the top of the heap. You hide Ben like he's an embarrassment. You made him the butt of every joke you told in this place. If he's not quite the amazing man he could have been, that's on you and what you've turned him into, Gordon says in a tone that's close to a growl. I haven't done that to him. He simply isn't as smart as we might have dreamed he would be, Charles explains. Scathing to speak that way of his own son. Listen to you, Gordon shouts, a rage starting to boil over. Your son, your flesh and blood, and you refer to him as if he's an idiot. You make him out to be a complete moron, and he's not here to defend himself. You've never told him how you feel, and that's not right. I'm sorry, Charles pleads with his enraged ghost father. Sorry doesn't cut it, Charles. I'm afraid I'm going to have to give you a failing grade as a father and inform you that your life's been a waste. I have to be merciful to you now, the old man says, and places his hands around Charles' throat. Charles can't breathe. He knows his father isn't there. He knows he can't be strangled by a ghost. In the back of his mind, he knows something is very wrong. He knows now that everyone warned him correctly in that meeting. He chokes for air and finds none entering his lungs. He tries to find an alarm that he can press to get security in here to save him from the ghost of his father. The bright room starts to dim. His tortured soul is being put out of its misery, and there's no one here to see it. The last thing Charles sees is the wide eyes of Gordon Woods, the old man who is proving himself to be a demon sent to exterminate the man who lived in charge of Arcology 1237. Now the stage is set for anarchy. When Charles finally slumps to the floor, there is no one there. There are no cries from loved ones. Charles is lying there, his eyes wide open, and his throat is red, from where his own hands choked the very life out of him. It's a suicide via insanity, and it's a very calculated move by those responsible for what's taking place here. Another domino has fallen. So, I remember when I wrote that, I thought, all right, I got to do something dramatic here. There's got to be something major just to make this, speed this up, where things go kind of crazy, kind of fast. So I thought, yeah, I'll just have the main guy just dead. That'll do it. So, all right, last scene, I promise, of this chapter. I because we did this before, this is take 2, I promised her I'd read her more than what she'd heard the first time through, because that'd suck. Okay, John takes his seat with his back to the wall. He's been trained to always have his eyes watching the crowd around him when he's in social settings like this. That leaves Carissa nearer to drunks staggering by and waitresses carrying the trays of food and drink to their assigned tables. Kind of makes John look like a bad date, but he can't fight his instincts now. They might be out for dinner, but he's on his guard after the warning Dave gave him. So where are you from? Carissa asks as she makes sure she looks good, checking herself out in a mirror on the wall behind John's chair. John looks over his shoulder at the mirror and smirks. Am I only here to make your real date jealous? He asks. Very funny. Are you going to answer my question? He shrugs. Well, I'm the oldest of 4 brothers, born to a single mother in Vancouver, BC, up in Canada there. I was raised there and studied astrophysics and graduated secondary school. I was then sent to a military training facility. It's not the kind people like you know about. I learned skills there which put me in my position as coffee vendor. He tags on the end before giving up confidential information. Because, you got to go to military school and learn all that secret technique for handing out coffee. You're going to stick with the coffee vendor story? I was there, saw how quickly you moved on Hector. I may be blonde, but I'm not stupid, Carissa says, shaking her head. John laughs and spots somebody in the crowd. I think I see your partner in crime there, he says, pointing at someone who is chatting up a few young ladies at the bar. Carissa turns to look and lowers her head. Nathan tries so hard to impress the ladies with that badge of his. I keep telling him he needs to show he knows what the hell he's doing at his job before he'll impress anybody. Maybe if he saw the move you pulled to save Maria Cruz. Temporarily, anyways. How the hell did that happen, John? John pauses. He can't give away too much, but he likes these people. He knows they're good people, and he knows fate won't be kind to them if this sickness spreads here as it has elsewhere. He's been wrestling with himself on how much he will tolerate before he gives himself up and commits professional suicide, as he would be fired for certain. He can't be secret ops if the secret's out. I wish I could make you feel better about this. I can tell you that you did all you could. You guys wanted to keep Hector Cruz locked up. It wasn't allowed. The power you had was stolen from you because your social standing in comparison with his just didn't measure up. I don't agree with that any more than you do. What social standing? I'm just the dumb blonde cop, right? She says as she motions to the waitress she's ready to order. Don't sell yourself short, John says. You get down on yourself too easily. John Webster, coffee vendor, secret agent, and now motivational speaker, she says as the waitress reaches their table. I'll have the filet mignon, baked potato, and green salad. Dressing for the salad? Ranch, I guess, she says. This is your treat, right? Yeah, sure, he replies. She smiles. I'll have a shot at tequila then. The waitress looks over at John and he starts his order. I'm too tired to think for myself. I'll just have what she's having, he says with a shrug. The waitress makes a note of their orders and walks off, allowing Carissa to jump back into conversation she's trying to have. So, about your training, where did you learn those moves of yours? I'm pretty sure that's not a Vancouver thing, since I know guys from Van and none of them had those kinds of moves. Maybe they were hiding their talents from you. My brothers are all capable of that same thing. On days like today, I actually miss them a lot, he says as the tequila shots arrive at their table. He slams his back before Carissa even has a chance to make a toast. I'll have another, he says to the waitress. Carissa slams hers back. Me too, she adds before the waitress leaves. She tries to look John in the eyes, but he's evasive. I'm used to basically being the one I'm not used to basically being the one asking for the date and trying to make conversation. Your eyes have been all around the room and almost never on me since we got here. Yeah, but you look at yourself enough to compensate. He sees this joke falls flat, so he tries to digress from that statement. Look, there's a lot going on here. There are a lot of people at this place, and I'm worried. I wish I could tell you more than that. There are days it sucks to be in this position. I am as this is one of them. What happens if you tell me the truth? The waitress returns with another round of tequilas. Leave the bottle, John tells her and throws money her way that more than pays for the bottle. Thank you, the waitress says with a smile as she stuffs the money into her pants pocket and leaves them to talk. John pours himself a shot and one for Carissa as well. He downs the first and looks up at the ceiling for a moment and thinks about what he wants to say. Tequila's already clouding his mind. He actually isn't much of a drinker and realizes he should be pacing himself, especially before he's eaten. Carissa, I can't get into it. I really can't. It's the best for you if I don't, but if I tell anyone on the arcology what the truth is, I'll start with you. I don't know whether that will make things any better, but it's the best I can do for now. Carissa downs a shot and finds herself wishing she had some salt and limes to accent their harsh drinks. That's going to have to do, I guess. Is that good?
Yes.
Okay. So John wants to tell her. He can't. He can't tell her.
Yes.
Because his boss won't allow it. All right, so that's most of chapter 4. There's 2 scenes left in chapter 4, and John's going to go all pretty quick here. He's going to have an awesome moment, but that's for the next part. I don't know which character's my favorite between John and Mike, actually. I mean, Mike is kind of based on, but John's kind of based on me too. Like, there's parts of me in both characters.
Right.
I don't know if you've noticed that some of the lines.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You're not looking at me while you're looking at yourself enough for both of us. So, you know, that's something I might say and then realize after I probably shouldn't have said that. So, all right.
Oh, that was out loud.
I may have said that out loud. I probably shouldn't have. So there you go. I apologize. This is later than intended. But I got more read out to you guys than I had thought I would. So there you go. We intend to do this daily, right?
Yep.
And
Because we're not doing anything else.
During all of this time of uncertainty and upheaval, I will read you a story of uncertainty and upheaval and a virus running through a population that kind of seems like fish in a barrel, kind of literally. So it's you know, it's this is going to be great. So there you go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And hey, thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will do this every day because you will watch this. And whether the view counts are 300, 400, they've been around 400.
Yeah.
Or wherever they end up, I'll still do this every day. Thank you guys so much for your patience and support. I will talk to you again soon.